FEMA, the government agency that is supposed to be in charge of saving American lives after a natural disaster, was exposed for directing its workers to avoid Republican households after the hurricanes. This is by far one of the most extreme examples of political discrimination that has occurred under the Biden-Harris administration. So I highly encourage everybody to watch this video till the end, because this is one of the craziest things a government agency has been exposed for doing. I'm going to get right into it so I don't waste any of your guys' time. So today, the FEMA director was having a hearing in front of Congress addressing evidence that showed that FEMA was engaging in anti-American behavior. The two things they were doing were misappropriating funds for disaster relief to facilitate illegal immigration and help migrants, and number two, and more importantly, directing their field operatives after two disastrous hurricanes to avoid houses that had Trump signs and other Republican hinting material. Now, we all know that there has been a ton of political discrimination under the Biden-Harris administration, from a former president being targeted under political lawfare, to conservative parents being targeted at school board meetings, to social media platforms canceling and banning conservative opinions. But now it has gotten so bad. I mean, this is probably the worst case of political discrimination that there is, because they are legitimately putting American lives at risk based on who they support politically. But before we get into the hearing with the FEMA director, watch this clip of a FEMA employee who was fired because they found out that she was implementing these anti-Trump policies about what was going down. Watch.
But what I'd like for the American people to know is, before I even deployed to Florida, that this was the work culture there. I was on two teams in Florida, and the first team, when I arrived, they were implementing avoidance and de-escalation. And unfortunately, that trend ran with those Trump campaign signs.
Who gave those orders? You appear to be conveying them, but you weren't the one where they originated. Is that right?
That's correct. All of my orders come from my task force lead, Chad Hershey. His whole mantra this entire deployment was to make sure people felt comfortable and make sure that they felt safe. And that's because we were in what FEMA categorizes political hostile territory. Again, before I was even deployed to Florida, there are accounts of Trump supporters being very passionate about their political stance. And unfortunately, that led to them saying they would either do bodily harm to FEMA workers, or they would do take threatening actions towards FEMA workers. And that was the trend, not just in Florida, but you'll see that in North Carolina as well, and Georgia.
Did that translate to avoiding all homes that had a Trump sign, or were there select neighborhoods that you implemented that trend in, or responded that way?
That's an excellent question. It was only selected areas where teammates felt uncomfortable. They did not feel safe, and they feared for their safety.
This is crazy that they were designating houses that had Trump signs and other Trump imagery as violent threats. And because of that, they were staying out of entire neighborhoods and avoiding houses specifically based on their political views. And for the side that called Donald Trump a fascist consistently, this is some true fascist behavior, literally letting people die because they do not agree with you politically. That is fascism. And she was talking about just following what her superiors were telling her to do. It sounds a whole lot like Nazi Germany, I was just following orders excuse that they tried to give. It seems as if you are told to let people die who politically disagree with you. You should stand up to that and know that that is not right. Now listen, it gets even worse. So at the hearing with the FEMA director, they pulled out text receipts from the FEMA workers who were on the ground in the hurricane zones, specifically telling them to avoid houses with Trump signs. This is insane. Watch Congressman Jim Jordan absolutely lay into the FEMA director because of this. Watch.
Jordan. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Administrator Criswell, is Ms. Washington lying to us?
Ms. Washington
She said it's common practice. You said it's reprehensible and isolated. Both statements can't be true. So someone's not giving us the facts, and I'm kind of trying to figure out who's not telling the truth.
The actions that Ms. Washington took were unacceptable.
Well, you had another employee. Now, they remain anonymous, but I think one of my colleagues pointed this out earlier. A FEMA official who spoke on condition of anonymity said Ms. Washington likely received, quote, very clear guidance from her supervisors. Is that not is that person lying too?
I have not received any evidence outside of the screenshot that Ms. Washington directed.
So those
her
two people
team.
are wrong. They're not telling the truth to us.
We are currently investigating this
But that's
issue
not what you
and
said.
bringing
You
in
said
the
this is
IG.
isolated, reprehensible, hasn't happened. This is the only time. And they're saying, nope, 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 it's commonplace.
I am saying that FEMA's mission is to help all people.
Well, let's look at
before,
maybe
during,
the
and
best
after
evidence we have
disasters.
is the actual screenshot. Can you put the screenshot up on the screen? Let's look at what the text message said. The text message said, implement best practices. Like, this is the best practices. We're going to implement them. And they talk about making sure you're going in pairs or with more than one person, avoid the Trump homes, drink your water, take your towel, coconut waters. So stay hydrated, walk with someone else, and don't go to the Trump homes. It seems pretty common and matter of fact in the actual evidence we do have, the text message itself.
Leave a like on this video if you guys are ready for President Trump to come back in office and end this radical anti-American behavior. This is the reason why Trump coming back in office cannot happen fast enough. Because government incompetence is not penalized under the Biden-Harris administration. These people are allowed to be inept, be destructive, be downright hateful, and put American lives at risk. And nothing happens. There's never any repercussions. Nobody gets fired. Everything just goes on as normal, and everybody gets to enjoy their cozy little job of ineptitude. That is why Vivek and Elon need to come in and cut the government, because everybody is too accustomed to just being allowed to fail and being allowed to do a poor job and being allowed to be woke and radical and discriminatory. It's absolutely unacceptable to put American lives at risk simply because you disagree with them politically is unjustifiable and treasonous. Let's watch the rest of the clip because Jim Jordan does not let up on her. He calls out her lack of interest in even trying to get to the bottom of what happened, and then points out how this is a larger cultural problem amongst all the agencies that have been infected with DEI woke nonsense. Watch.
Is the Inspector General looking at it as well?
And I have asked the Inspector General to take a look at this. I
Any
welcome
idea when,
their
any idea
review.
when they're going to talk to these 13 people since you have it? Have you talked to, how about you personally? Have you talked to any of these 13 people?
I have not talked to them.
You have not talked to
personally.
any
I
of them?
have an entire team that focuses on this investigation, and that's what they're doing.
Seems to me it's part of a mindset that's in government. And this is the scary part, because I think it's broader. And you don't have to take my word. Take it what people have said. I mean, this reminds me, we've talked about this many times, but I can think of, well, actually the same person, let's go back to that, the same person who said that this likely received very clear guidance, this other FEMA official, also said this: I have heard from other entities who were serving in North Carolina that there was clear guidance to be mindful, quote, of the types of people who are in Western North Carolina.
I have
That's
not
pretty
seen
derogatory
evidence of
stuff
that.
there, isn't it?
I have not seen any.
But you know what it
evidence.
sounds like? It sounds like Peter Strzok. Peter Strzok when he said, oh, I just went into Walmart, I can smell the Trump supporters. Sounds like Joe Biden when he said, oh, the garbage I see is the Trump supporters out there.
The fact that this lady hasn't even talked to the people in that group chat to get to the bottom of it, and while the FEMA director tries to say that this isn't a widespread thing happening, just a few isolated issues, even though it's been proven that it isn't, watch this congressman provide evidence that people who were contracted by FEMA went to somebody's house before FEMA aid arrived and told them, take down all of their Trump signs or else they would not get any aid. Watch.
During the recess for votes, my staff made contact with a new whistleblower who provided a credible account that a FEMA contractor visited the home of an elderly disabled veteran's family around October 10th following Hurricane Helene. While there, the FEMA contractor recommended that the family remove Trump campaign materials and signs from both their house and their yard. He warned the family that his FEMA supervisors do not take kindly to Trump supporters. and that they seen as domestic terrorists. The elderly homeowners were so frightened by this and afraid that they would not recover their loss that they removed all Trump materials and signs. Nevertheless, FEMA has not returned to their residents. This took place not in Florida, but in Georgia. Administrator, we're happy to provide you with more information on this, but we and the American people want to know what FEMA is doing to ensure that political discrimination is not dictating how the American people are receiving aid following a disaster.
Elderly people were not helped because of their political affiliation. If that is not fascism, if that is not true evilness, I do not know what is. And this is, again, supposed to be from the party that considers themselves loving and kind and inclusive and about unity. But they are legitimately putting people's lives at risk, letting them fend for themselves after a natural disaster because they don't like who that person supports politically. And finally, here is a congressman talking to the FEMA director about all the funds that were misappropriated to help facilitate the illegal migration problem, on top of taking manpower and staff away from the actual critical issues of FEMA being helping Americans after natural disasters. Watch.
I am deeply troubled by how fast the DRF was depleted. Equally troubling is FEMA's forays into providing sheltering assistance to illegal aliens at the southern border, which has cost taxpayers more than $1 billion since 2019. Although these funds have not come from the DRF, they are certainly taking dollars and staffing resources away from helping American. Correction, FEMA's focus should remain on helping communities respond to and recover from natural disasters rather than on diverting taxpayer resources towards political initiatives like exacerbating the crisis at the southern border, climate change, or picking and choosing which homes to canvass based on political signs.
So not only are they un-American in the sense that they are discriminating against Americans and not saving lives based on who people vote for, but they're also taking American taxpayer money to help facilitate a crisis that is hurting Americans. And I bet you absolutely no one gets fired for this. That is the problem with bureaucrats and establishment politicians, is everybody has this understanding amongst each other that they can just fail and be incompetent and be inefficient, and nobody ever gets punished, nobody ever gets held accountable, and everybody just keeps their jobs. That's why everybody who Trump fired came out and said that they didn't like him and that he was dangerous and all types of slander and tried to ruin his character, because he broke the unspoken agreement that exists in government, is that every year they're just going to spend more money, take more of the taxpayer dollar, get us further into debt, and they don't have to do anything to prove to us that they're spending our money in an effective way that actually helps us. So if you guys enjoyed this video, let me know in the comment section down below what you think of this absolute madness. Make sure you guys smash the like button so this video can get out there so more people can see just how utterly ridiculous and discriminatory Joe Biden's government has been and is still being, because the Democrats claim that it never happened. So make sure you guys send this to a Democrat so they can see it. Subscribe to the channel if you have not already. Turn on those notification bells so you never miss a video. And I will see you guys in the next one.